and welcome back to the Northern Lights Sportscast, Episode 5. This is the post-first week of conference tournaments edition of our NCAA March Madness preview. This week, we are going to talk about another 17 conferences, the remainder of the conferences, in fact. And today, we are actually going to start out with the ACC conference. You guys want me to give me a rundown on kind of what the ACC is looking like this year?
Well, since the bracket games have already kind of started, they're heading into the quarterfinals tomorrow with two games already decided. Miami, the first seed, will be playing the 9th seed Wake Forest, and 4th seed Duke will be playing 5th seed Pittsburgh. The other two games will be decided tonight, which will leave Virginia playing either North Carolina or Boston College, and then Clemson would either play NC State or Virginia Tech.
And this is a conference that normally has teams like Duke and North Carolina up at the top of the conference, but this year it's Miami that takes the top seed. However, Duke is probably the hottest team heading into the tournament as they have 6 straight wins.
Yeah. Yep. ACC always tends to have at least a few good ones. And yeah, Duke is still ranked this year, even though they're not having probably as good of a year as they have in the past. They're ranked 21st in the country right now. And then Miami, of course, the top seed going into the tournament, is ranked 14th. Virginia is ranked 13th.
It's just kind of weird. It's a little weird that Virginia, like the highest seed out of the nation, is below Miami. But I guess they had a tiebreaker or something.
Yeah, that's conference tiebreakers for you. So, guys, who do you think's got the best chance to win this tournament?
Go ahead, Dash.
I personally think it's going to be, I know Miami has the top seed, but I'm going to go riding with the hot hand here. I'm going to say that Duke wins the ACC.
Cody, what do you think?
I want Duke's reign to kind of end since they lost their coach a little bit. I just still think they're going to be a great basketball team, but I'm going to say kind of Virginia is going to be the team that does it this year. They have a very good team. They're the top seeded, as I said, like they're the top in the nation out of this conference, and they've had always a very well-rounded basketball team. After they lost to a 16 seed one year, they came all the way back and won the whole thing. So I would say Virginia is my team to win it all.
And you know what? I'm going to be the odd one out here and actually predict that the top seed is going to win it all. Wouldn't it be something for Miami if they actually won the conference tournament? I think that'd be cool for them. Obviously, we know that Miami, Virginia, Clemson, Duke, potentially even all the way down to North Carolina is all going to make the tournament. They all have 22 wins, except for North Carolina. North Carolina is the first one below 22, and they're at 19. So I would definitely feel like the ACC is going to give at least 7 teams this year. But yeah. All right. Well, I think it's time to move on to the Big West Conference. This year's tournament will take place from March 7th to March 11th in Henderson, Nevada. The defending champion is Cal State Fullerton, and this year's top seed is UC Irvine. Whoever wants to go first, go for it.
This conference I don't really know much about. It's always the one that I kind of seem to know little about because it's all the California teams. But out of this conference, I've usually seen Irvine, Riverside, or Davis make it into the conference championship. Sometimes for Fullerton, but with Irvine being the number 1 seed, they've never usually, when they're the number 1 seed, lose this conference playoff thing. So I would say they have the best chance of moving on in this tournament.
You talked about Fullerton. They kind of had a funky last 2 weeks. They're on a 6-game win streak right now after starting conference play 6-6. But however, they've had 2 games recently get canceled in conference play as well. So it's kind of interesting to see how they can ride the momentum off of that.
Yeah, I definitely agree because, you said they're on a 6-game win streak, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so definitely streak-wise they're considered the hottest team, but they haven't played in a little while, so we'll see what that does to them. I personally don't see a reason why Cal State Fullerton can't repeat. Not a lot of tournaments these days have too many repeat champions, but I like Cal State Fullerton's chances. At the same time, any of the UC teams at the top could most definitely win it.
I would say my next team up right away would probably be Santa Barbara.
Yeah.
They've had one hell of a year too. They're tied with the Anteaters from Irving, UC Irving. They have the same conference record, and they have overall a better record. And they also had a 4 winning streak here at the end.
Yeah, and as I have here, we take a look at the bracket. The first round games have played already. When we're recording this, they played yesterday. Cal State Bakersfield will play the top seed UC Irvine tomorrow, and then Cal Poly, the 10 seed, beat Long Beach State, the 7th seed, and will play UC Santa Barbara tomorrow as well. Any final thoughts, guys?
I don't really have any other than it's probably just going to be the automatic bid from this conference. It usually is.
All right, now we move on to the MAAC. Now, this is the one that oftentimes gets confused with the Mid America Conference, but they are the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference. This tournament will take place from March 7th to March 11th in Atlantic City, New Jersey. The defending champion is everyone's favorite Cinderella from last year, St. Peter's. And then this year's top seed in the MAAC is Iona, the perennial favorite, I would say, in the MAAC every year. Guys, first thoughts.
Yeah, can we just say first off that it's very sad to see us probably lose our Cinderella heroes from last year in St. Peter's, as they're now the 10th seed this year. But also, you talk about Iona. Yeah, they're on a 10-game win streak right now, and they just beat the second seeded team in the conference, Rider, in the final game of the regular season. So they're coming in with a lot of guns a-blazing right now, and I definitely shouldn't see a reason why they can't win the conference easily.
Cody?
Iona is usually the team that gets in there, and even as a 12 seed, have won games and moved on. I've never really seen them reach the round of 16, but right now they're actually playing Mount St. Mary's and have a pretty convincing lead of 33 to 28. Sorry, I said that wrong. Not a convincing lead, but they are winning against Mount St. Mary's. And I would say they're my team to kind of win it and get back in it. I'm also kind of okay with St. Peter's not being the Cinderella team, because that would mean it's going to be a new team, and I'm always okay with trying to figure out who's going to be that new team when I'm running my bracket down.
Yeah, and just while I have the bracket pulled up, to recap the first round games, as you mentioned, Mount St. Mary's is currently playing Iona. They beat 9th seed Canisius on Tuesday. St. Peter's is still in the mix. They beat 7th seed Fairfield, and they are going to play Rider either today or tomorrow. And then Marist beat Manhattan, and they will be playing Quinnipiac either today or tomorrow. Guys, any final thoughts on the MAAC before we move on to another conference?
Are we going on to the MAAC? Like a regular MAAC?
No, we are moving on to the WAC.
Put that M upside down.
We move on to the WAC, the Western Athletic Conference.
I love this name. Every time I say it, people get confused because they think I'm going to whack them.
Yeah, exactly. This tournament will take place from March 7th to March 11th in Paradise, Nevada. The defending champion is this year's ineligible team, the New Mexico State Aggies. And then this year's top seed is the Utah Valley Wolverines. And something... Yeah, go ahead, guys. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, obviously New Mexico State with what happened with them. They are ineligible this year. And to be fair, they probably weren't going to be, top seeds in this conference anyway this time around. Meanwhile, you got a couple of teams that are looking pretty good right now. You got Utah Valley on a 3-game win streak, and they were 24-7 overall in the regular season. But then right behind them is Sam Houston, who's on a 7-game win streak, and they have very similar statistics as Utah Valley.
Yeah, one of the hottest teams in basketball right now. They're in Sam Houston. Cody, got any thoughts?
I was going to say the Utah Valley and Sam Houston have clearly a very good shot into making the championship round. But, some upsets that I can see happening is like Southern Utah or Seattle U. They've also had a pretty good year, but they've recently been on a slump with only having a 1-game win streak. And their conference records are not as good, but I would say they can come back and get to championship and maybe even to the national tournament.
All right. And yeah, before we get final thoughts here, a recap briefly of the first round games that have already played in this tournament. 8th seeded Cal Baptist beat Abilene Christian, and they are going to play top seeded Sam Houston State tomorrow. Grand Canyon beat 12th seeded UT Arlington, and they will play Seattle U tomorrow. Tarleton State beat RGV, and they will be playing Utah Valley tomorrow. And then Utah Tech beat Stephen F. Austin, and they will be playing Southern Utah tomorrow. And I do want to correct a brief error I realized in my graphic. I created this before I realized they had a specialized seeding system. Sam Houston is actually the top seed, not Utah Valley. Utah Valley is the regular season champion, but they have a special ranking system to determine their seedings. Any final thoughts, guys?
I would say Grand Canyon also has a very good chance in maybe pulling up some upsets, but I really kind of think it's going to be Sam Houston or Utah Valley.
Dash?
Yeah, I mean, you got Sam Houston State, who looks like one of the better teams right now, who's, not in the main conferences. So it'll be interesting to see whether Utah Valley can hold them off or not, or maybe if it's somebody else who comes from the back.
All right. Now we're going to move a lot further east. We're going to move all the way to the East Coast to the Atlantic 10 Conference. This conference tournament will take place from March 7th to March 12th in Brooklyn, New York, at what I believe is the Barclays Center. Yes, they are playing where the Nets currently play. The defending champion of the Atlantic 10 is Richmond, and this year's top seed is VCU. Guys, take it away.
Talking about the top seed, Richmond, yeah, they made it to the second round of the tournament last year, although this year not gone as well, 7-11 in conference. And then meanwhile, your conference leader, VCU, 6-game win streak, 15-3 in conference play, and looking pretty good overall. But they're not the hottest team in the conference right now when it comes to win streak. That is actually 5th seeded George Mason, who's got a 7-game win streak at the moment.
Make it 8. They won today.
All right, then. So now it's 8. So that just adds to the point about George Mason being an underdog team in this conference.
Yeah, as you mentioned that, I show the bracket here. Cody, go ahead.
You know who they beat? The old conference champion, Richmond. They are now eliminated.
Yep. Richmond's done. Yep. Richmond did beat Massachusetts to start out the tournament. St. Joseph beat Loyola Chicago, so this year's transplant from the Missouri Valley is also ineligible.
It seems like their transitionary move was a disaster, at least for the first year.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then LaSalle beat Rhode Island, and they will be playing Duquesne tonight. And then, St. Joseph's and George Washington will play tonight as well to determine who will play. They already finished?
Yep. St. Joseph's upsets George Washington 87-76.
All right. So they will play Dayton then. And then the winner of Duquesne and LaSalle will play Fordham tomorrow as well. Guys, any final thoughts before we move on?
My thoughts are I could see VCU and Dayton already probably making the tournament, but I would probably say Dayton would be my team to win it all. VCU has had some good games, but Dayton's been up there with them all the time trying to beat them. So I would say Dayton's going to get this conference.
Dash, any final thoughts?
I don't have too much comments from the men's side, but the women's side of this conference, St. Louis making their first ever national tournament for them. So congratulations to St. Louis's women's team.
There you go. All right. Now we'll move back to the center of the country to a much bigger conference, I guess I would say. We're going to actually kind of big conference. We're moving to the Big 12 conference.
Bigger in revenue, smaller in team.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love this tournament.
This tournament's going to take place from March 8th to March 11th in Kansas City, Missouri. And this year's defending champion and top seed are the same. It is the Kansas Jayhawks. This conference currently has 5 ranked teams. Obviously, Kansas, the 3rd ranked team in the country. Texas, the 7th ranked team in the country. Kansas State's the 12th ranked team in the country, and Baylor with 10th ranked in the country, and then TCU is the 22nd ranked team in the country. Guys, go ahead.
I've not recently watched Big 12 basketball, but during my time at home when I was back at home, that makes sense. I was watching a lot of basketball, and the basketball I was mostly watching was this conference, Big 12. I've loved watching Iowa State versus TCU or Texas versus TCU, Kansas versus Kansas State. All those games were very well done, and I can see probably any of the top 5 seeds winning this conference. But my top pick would probably have to be Kansas State. They every time I watched them, they kept it close and even made it. Got the final shot at the end. They know what they are doing, even when they're playing that top seeded Kansas. They have beaten Kansas before when they are like third in the nation. So I would say if they can get past Texas and it is against Kansas, I would say Kansas State will be going on.
I mean, even though TCU is the top 25 team in this country, they still are only at 500 in conference play. So that just tells you how tough this conference is right now. And I kind of have to agree with Cody. Personally, I think the championship as of right now is going to come down to Kansas and Kansas State, which I think would be a very interesting championship matchup.
I would definitely say to watch out for, ironically, Iowa State, as Cody mentioned earlier. I definitely think they're one of the underrated teams in the top 6. And then just to briefly comment on that, I think probably the top 6 teams could all make the NCAA tournament.
I'm a little surprised how Baylor kind of got up there quick.
Yeah. They've had a really good year.
Well, when I was watching it, they weren't even close to the top. It was Kansas, Texas, Kansas State, Iowa State, TCU. Baylor was like below Oklahoma State, so they must have turned it around when I was watching. I was watching in like January, though, so they could have easily turned it around.
Yeah. All right, guys. Any final thoughts on the Big 12 before we move on?
Really hope that these teams. I feel like 2 of these teams might face each other in the big March Madness tournament, though, in maybe a Sweet 16 matchup. It might be Baylor, but
most definitely. All right, so we're going to head out east again. We're going to head to the Big East Conference. This tournament will take place from March 8th to March 11th in New York City. The defending champion is the Providence Friars, and this year's top seed is the Marquette Golden Eagles, Dash's favorite team, of course. They are. That is not a fact. That is a joke. But currently, the Big East plays host to 4 ranked teams. 6th ranked Marquette, which is the top seed. Xavier, number 15. And that Creighton is 24th in the nation, and UConn is number 11 in the nation. Dash, why don't you start off on this one?
Yeah, this is a conference that's got a lot of heavyweight favorites in it right now. You go with those top 4 teams in the conference are very strong, and then you also have the defending champions as well down there in the middle as well, so they could also make some noise, although they have lost 2 games in a row. That is, Providence has lost 2 games in a row to end the year. And then meanwhile, you look at Marquette. They're on a 16-win streak. Xavier, 3 in a row. Creighton won their last 2. UConn won 5 in a row. So a lot of teams are on fire right now. And it'll be very interesting to see what can happen. And then meanwhile, also in the tournament, kind of an upset already. I mean, DePaul beat Seton Hall already today. So kind of a toss-up in this tournament right now.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Go ahead, Cody.
I was going to say DePaul has kind of been the upset these last couple of years in this conference. They've done it before because I don't know if it was last year they made it to the semifinals, but they've done it a lot of upsetting before.
I believe it was last year that they had a really good run in the conference tournament. It's not as big as compared to some of the other conferences we're going to talk about today, because it's just, I mean, there's a first round, but I mean, there's some conferences that have so many rounds. It's unbelievable.
Big Ten.
Yeah, that's honestly what I was thinking of. So, but this conference is easily going to go 5 deep for the tournament, I feel like. I mean, even though Providence isn't ranked, they still got 21 wins on the year. I definitely think they're probably going to still make the NCAA tournament.
It might be a first 4, though. Like, they might be 11th first 4.
I was going to say as like a 12 seed.
That might also be true. I'm a little surprised how Villanova has turned out. They're only 500 in conference play, and they usually are a very good basketball team. But this year, it's just, I guess it wasn't there for them.
Yeah, it's kind of a renaissance for some of the teams that just haven't been very well in a while. Like I don't know what Dash thinks about this, but I know I haven't seen Marquette doing this well in a while.
They've had their years like this before. I mean, I think I remember a year they were a 4 seed once before, but yeah, this is definitely one of their better years, and I definitely could see them making a decent run in the tournament.
Did UConn make the tournament last year, or no?
I want to say
I don't think they
did.
did. Okay. Well, if they did, I was going to say they were kind of last year. I don't even remember them that much, so they kind of have turned it around too a little bit.
That question of yours would be easier to answer if we were talking about the women's side.
Yes, yeah, very much so. I will say though, like I kind of have to that UConn was kind of going to be my pick for the upset win for this conference, but they got to face up against Providence first, and that's going to be a tough matchup, and then have to go up against Marquette if Marquette wins their first game.
All right. Now, due to time, we do have to move on. So we are going to head back towards the center of the country to Conference USA. This tournament starts today as well. It will go until March 11th, and it will take place in one of our favorite locations, Frisco, Texas.
Yeah.
The defending champion is Middle Tennessee State, and this year's top seed is Florida Atlantic, everyone's favorite underdog this year. I believe FAU even took a time in the top 25 this year, did they not?
Yeah,
Yep.
they were 24.
First time in school history.
Yeah, so quite a good year for them. I definitely hope that they can make their way all the way through the gauntlet that is their tournament, and find a way to win it. Guys, anyone you think that could maybe upset them?
One team I got right off.
Go ahead.
One team I got right off the bat is one of the teams that did beat them in the regular season, UAB. They're currently on a 6-game win streak right now, and they beat up on Florida Atlantic last time they played them. They're 14-6 in conference play, so not as impressive in that department, and the 6-5 record on the road. But the fact that they've gone up against Florida Atlantic and beat them gives me a good chance that they could possibly beat them if they need them again, especially with a 6-game win streak. The other team that beat Florida Atlantic was Middle Tennessee, but they're on a 2-game losing streak right now as the 4th seed.
Okay, yeah. The UAB you mentioned, they were definitely going to have to win a couple games to get there. That would be a championship-only type matchup. But Cody, any thoughts on Conference USA?
Conference USA. I really hope Florida Atlantic does pull it off. I haven't really seen them do this well recently or anything. But another team that I kind of think might do it, I do agree with you, is UAB, but I think North Texas might be a team that does it to undercut Florida Atlantic's run. They've had a very great run over this year, and they've only had two more losses than Florida Atlantic, and they're also on a 2-game winning streak, which isn't much, but you never know.
All right, final thoughts on Conference USA.
Owls.
All right, with that, we're going to head to a different conference. We're going to head to the MEAC, the Mid-East Athletic Conference. This tournament will take place from March 8th to March 11th in Norfolk, Virginia.
Oh, jeez.
Last year's champion is Norfolk State, and this year's top seed are the Howard Bison. Guys, take it away.
I will just update. Howard has already won today by a 91-55 win. So,
over who?
South Carolina State.
Okay. So yeah, Howard definitely the team to beat in this conference right now. But however, North Carolina Central kind of came from out of nowhere to get that 2nd seed. Norfolk State had the 2nd seed pretty much locked up, but they lost 2 games in a row to end the season. And North Carolina Central, behind a 7-game win streak, took it on the final day of regular season play.
Yeah, I definitely think that, NC Central is probably Howard's biggest threat, I would think, to win the tournament.
It's just a team that started out 3-4 in conference play and then rattle off 7 straight wins. So yeah, now they're back in 2nd place.
Exactly. So I mean, Norfolk State even has a better overall record than NC Central. So really interesting story to watch there. Cody, any thoughts?
I was gonna kind of hope to see North Carolina Central in the tournament. I think they could have a chance to beat Howard in that championship game. I actually picked them in my pick'em league here. So.
All right. Well, guys, any final thoughts on the MEAC before we move on?
Coppin State for the win. Yeah.
All right. Now we're going to move out to the Rocky Mountains. We're going to move to the Mountain West Conference. This tournament is going to take place from March 8th to March 11th, again in Paradise, Nevada. The defending champion is Boise State, and this year's top seed is San Diego State. I know just off the bat, San Diego State's kind of the perennial powerhouse in this conference, I like to say. While they didn't win the tournament last year, they are always the team I look at that is typically ranked. So they're the team that most people will probably know about. Guys, who do you think can unseat San Diego State in this year's tournament?
Personally, I think that the best shot is probably the defending champs, Boise State. I think they have the best shot at knocking them off. But another team, though, that hasn't been talked about too much is Utah State, who is on a 5-game win streak right now, and they are a team that could also give San Diego State trouble.
Cody.
I would say San Diego State has it. I don't really see any team that could do it, but Boise State would be the one I think would do it. But I'd say San Diego State's going all the way. Sorry, Dash. I'm saying San Diego.
I mean, Boise State just beat San Diego State 9 days ago, so you never know. I mean, it was in Boise, so that definitely doesn't help San Diego State. But
well, you had more facts than me, so you win.
Yeah, I mean, when we look at the bracket, in fact, this bracket already does have 2 games finished and probably a third, to be honest, since I screenshotted this several hours ago. Colorado State is going to play San Diego State tomorrow after beating Fresno State today. UNLV beat Air Force today and will play Boise State tomorrow. And New Mexico and Wyoming are playing to decide who will play Utah State tomorrow. Guys, any final thoughts on the Mountain West?
The game is at halftime with Wyoming over New Mexico by 3.
All right.
Could be an upset there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's move out to a conference that has had a lot of turmoil this year. We're going to move out to the Pac-12 conference. Their tournament will take place from March 8th to March 11th, also in Paradise, Nevada. And it will be, and the defending champion of this tournament is the Arizona Wildcats. And this year's top seed is UCLA. Just off the bat, I know UCLA's had quite the renaissance this year. They've made a big comeback year, in my opinion. They've done a lot better this year, honestly, in the last few years. I don't remember them being this good since probably just Lonzo Ball playing for them. I think that was the last time I remember them doing this good. I know UCLA is 2nd ranked in the country, and Arizona is 8th. Dash, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, people are thinking that UCLA is definitely going to be a 1 seed in this tournament, and I would definitely agree with that. They look like one of the stronger teams of the entire season in the country. And then you also have teams like Arizona and USC that you're going to have to keep an eye on. But this conference is definitely strange when it comes to teams either riding some big highs or crashing down on some lows. Like you have in the middle of the conference right now, Washington State, after starting out conference play 4-9, they won 7 in a row to get 11-9. And
Make it 8.
What?
Make it 8. They won today.
Okay. And then meanwhile, now you have the more facts. Now who has the more facts? But, and then meanwhile, Utah, they started out the conference play 10-5, and then they lost their last 5 in the regular season. So, yeah, I mean, this is some interesting teams going up and down.
Yeah, most definitely. Who do you guys think can win the tournament this year?
Oregon. No, not really. I would say it was probably going to have to be Arizona or I would say UCLA is dominant, and they've pretty much deserved that 1 seed. They are on a 10-game winning streak. I hope no one else already said that. But they kind of deserve this 1 seeded already, and they would probably secure their 1 seed if they win this conference. And their first game is against Colorado coming up tomorrow.
Dash.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know who right now can beat UCLA. I mean, I know the conference games are hard, but I personally think that UCLA should be able to move through this conference tournament.
All right. And then with that, we are going to move on to the Southwest Athletic Conference, the SWAC. Down in the southern.
They're so much cooler than the WAC because they have an S.
They have an S at the beginning, yeah. This tournament will take place from March 8th to 11th in Birmingham, Alabama. Last year's champion is Texas Southern. Yep, Texas Southern. And this year's top seed is Alcorn State.
He's trying to find them down the rankings.
Yeah, that's honestly why I had trouble seeing it. I thought it was Texas Southern, but I couldn't remember for sure. Gosh, is anybody even going to challenge Alcorn State and Grambling this year? Those are the top 2 seeds.
No.
I mean, Grambling State, team that at least I can't remember, them really being relevant in the basketball landscape. So it's good to see them up there towards the top. And then also you got Jackson State that's in third. I think they could possibly be ones to contend with either Alcorn or Grambling, but it definitely seems like the top 2 seeds are the teams to beat.
Cody?
I really think that Grambling can beat Alcorn State because they have the same conference record. They're both 15-3. But the big difference to that is Grambling is on an 11-game winning streak with their win today.
Yeah.
They're going on to the semifinals already. And go ahead.
They have a better overall record than Alcorn State. They're 23-8 compared to Alcorn's 18-12. Yeah.
So I really think it's going to be Grambling. The Tigers' way to win it. Wait, which Tiger? Shoot, there's another Tigers team.
That's okay. We know what you meant.
The G team.
No, I don't.
There's 3 Tigers teams in this conference. What the heck?
Apparently they're not. Apparently no one wants to make an original name. Is what I'm seeing here.
It's Grambling Tiger. I still can't say Jackson State Tigers and Texas Southern Tigers. Jeez.
Any final thoughts, guys, on the SWAC before we move on?
Too many Tigers.
Too many Tigers. Dash, any thoughts?
What he said.
All right, now we're going to move to the humongous conference that is the Big Ten Conference.
Yeah.
Their tournament, as per usual, takes place in Chicago, Illinois from March 8th to 12th. The defending champion is the Iowa Hawkeyes, and then this year's top seed is Purdue.
I forgot Iowa won last year.
Yeah,
Dang.
Iowa is not having nearly as good of a year. They're 5th this year. Purdue, the top seed, is ranked 5th in the country. The next ranked team in the Big Ten is Indiana. A far cry from what we saw from the Big Ten last year with how many ranked teams they had. Still, though, apparently people expect them to go many deep for the NCAA tournament. I don't know how that's going to happen, but sure.
Can I just say,
yeah, go ahead.
I really appreciate that Ohio State's in the first round of this tournament. They are never in the first round. This is the first time I probably have ever seen them in the first round.
I think they have been, but yeah, lately they've just been so good.
Yeah, and I'm just happy to see it, and I hope Wisconsin beats the crap out of them.
Wisconsin's losing by 5 with 1 minute to go, and that's why. Damn it! And that's why I want to put the theories to rest for everybody who's been talking about it. That no, Wisconsin is not going to make it into the tournament as one of the last 4 teams. I don't know why people have been predicting that, but this is going to put it to rest. I think.
When does Nebraska and Minnesota play?
I think 8.
Because I'm really looking forward to that game.
And meanwhile, the other big thing in this conference, which I think everybody has overlooked this year, the underdog story that has been Northwestern. And this team before the season, a lot of people predicted them to be down in 12th or 13th ranked in the conference, and they've come all the way up to be 3rd in the conference. So that is just very impressive for this Wildcats team that nobody placed expectations on.
I would also say don't forget about Rutgers. They have beat Purdue and Indiana throughout this season. They do have a difficult time to get into the championship. They have to play Michigan and then go face Purdue. But I would say if they kind of get to the championship game, they probably might have secured a at-large bid if they don't win it.
Who again, Cody?
Rutgers.
Okay.
And I would also say watch out for Nebraska. They're trying to get into the bracket right now, but they would have to go very far, a lot harder route than Rutgers.
They need to end up playing Indiana, I think, in order for them to actually make the tournament. But it's there.
I would say they have a very easy first round against the Minnesota Golden Gophers, who are trash.
Oh, my gosh. Don't even get me started on the Gophers.
I was so freaking mad.
Yeah. The Gophers just continually disappoint people every year. I mean, they have a new head coach, but I'm sure Dash feels similarly about Wisconsin this year. But, I mean, just 2 teams that are typically decent. Well, Wisconsin more so than Minnesota. But, Yeah. Guys, who do you think's an underdog that could win the tournament over compared to like Purdue or Northwestern?
I already kind of said mine with Rutgers, but I'm sticking to that one probably because Rutgers has beat Purdue and have shown that they have the talent to beat the top teams in this conference. So I would say Rutgers.
My upset team is actually, I think it's the Maryland Terrapins. I think they've had some impressive performances this year, and kind of similar to Rutgers. I think there's a chance that Maryland can sneak their way through this conference tournament.
I'm going to go with a different team. I'm going to say that the defending champion has a shot here. I think Iowa's got a shot to make it all the way. Now, it's not the easiest path. They got to play Michigan State and Purdue, but I don't think it's out of the question that they could win it. But any final thoughts, guys, on the Big Ten here?
Minnesota, just quit. Just give up. Just let Nebraska win, please. Don't even try.
As we learned last week, given that we're big NDSU fans, a former NDSU player, Sam Griesel, currently plays for Nebraska, so we're really kind of seeing how far they can go this year. Dash, any final thoughts?
Joe mentioned the Gophers are going to be able to win this game now.
Yeah.
Of course.
Oh, wait, no.
Of course, now that we want Nebraska to win, of course the Gophers are going to somehow win.
That is our luck, yes, but please, no.
All right, we're going to move on to another ginormous
Speaking
conference.
of bad luck for the rest of the country,
we're going to move to the SEC. This conference is going to play their tournament in Nashville, Tennessee, from March 8th to March 12th. The defending champion is Tennessee, and this year's top seed is Alabama.
When did Alabama get so good at basketball?
They've been good for a while.
Good at sports, Alabama.
They've been good for a while. Back when I remember a game that they played back in 2016. I think they played Minnesota on national TV or something. And they were pretty good back then too. Colin Sexton played for them back then.
They were a second, but they were a second seed last year. That's the only time I have realized, hey, they might be an actual good basketball team. But they have football. Leave sports for other people.
But yeah, I mean, kind of like what Cody's implying here. It's like, this is a team that's always been decent, but it's like never national championship noticing. And now it looks like they're going to be probably one of the top seeds in the tournament. And yeah, it's kind of irritating to the rest of the country who doesn't want to see Alabama succeed anymore. But they do have a good team. They're undefeated at home, which is a very good stat. But other teams to watch out for is the SEC is pretty loaded every single year. You got Texas A&M, who's actually having a pretty good year, and the usual always kind of around there, Kentucky as well, being in third. So, there's a good chance that one of those teams could take it away from Alabama as well.
Yeah, this conference does, like you mentioned, have 5 ranked teams. Alabama is ranked 4th in the country currently. Texas A&M is 18th in the country. Kentucky's 23rd in the country. Missouri is 25th in the country. And Tennessee is 17th in the country. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't remember the last time Missouri had this much hype either. Yeah, I don't remember hearing Missouri's name called very much.
I think the last time they were this relevant, they were the 2 seed, and they ended up losing in the first round, 15th seed in Norfolk State. So, yeah, I don't think they've been relevant ever since that.
Yeah, we'll find out. I mean,
well,
go ahead, Cody.
I will tell you that SEC is already not disappointing with their first game overall. Ole Miss versus South Carolina. It is a 6-point game with 5 minutes left. Ole Miss winning.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be a fun weekend of basketball. That's for sure.
Unless you're Lafayette, who's getting destroyed by Colgate.
Yeah, exactly. I was just trying to think of which conference that was again.
But, toothpaste. Woo!
Yeah, we talked about them last week. We'll leave them for next week. But, guys, any underdog you think that could pull off the upset in this tournament?
The only really underdog that I could see would be Tennessee, but they're the 5th seed.
Yeah, they're not really an underdog.
Yeah, so I don't. What? Go ahead.
Well, no, but I was going to say I don't know then because I was going to say Missouri, but I mean, I don't know anybody below Tennessee in the standings that can really make a run at it at all. Yeah. So you're going to go for an underdog. This is probably the best we're going to get.
Yeah.
I would say, though, like the ones that could give Alabama a really rough time, I would say I kind of want Texas A&M to win this conference and then probably secure a 2nd seed in the March Madness.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. I personally have always liked Texas A&M a little bit more than some others. I know plenty of college football fans out there that would not like hearing that. But
I kind of have to root on Texas A&M. I had family go Texas.
okay. Guys, any final thoughts on the SEC before we move on?
Go Kentucky and Texas A&M, Alabama. Screw you.
All right, we are going to move back to the center of the country. We're going to move to the MAAC, the Mid-America Conference. This year's tournament's held from March 9th to March 11th in Cleveland, Ohio. I believe at the NBA arena where the Cleveland Cavaliers currently play. And Akron is the defending champion, and this year's top seed is Toledo. Guys, tee it off.
Toledo.
One of the hottest teams in the country, who's not in one of the Power Six conferences. I mean, 15 straight wins after starting out the conference actually under 500. They started out losing 2 of their first 3, and then just rattled off 15 wins. So, a very impressive stretch for Toledo. And then one thing that I kind of find, it doesn't mean anything for really the tournament, but one thing I find a little comical about this conference is look at the last 3 teams in the standings of the conference: Central Michigan, Eastern Michigan, Western Michigan. All 3 of the Michigan schools down at the bottom.
Exactly.
I was gonna mention that too.
Yeah. Gosh, the one thing I want to ask here is if Toledo somehow loses in the tournament final of this bracket, do we think that they could make it as an at-large?
I personally think so, and I was just thinking about the records too. Like the same thing if Kent State were to. So say the final is Toledo and Kent State. I personally think there could be a case for either team. If if either team wins, the other could make it in as an at-large. Because Kent State has the same overall record as Toledo does. At 25-6.
Yeah. I kind of hope the final is that, but I would say that I really would love to see Toledo make it into the bracket, but Archon and Ball State are probably the teams that could maybe upset that. But I think Toledo, if they keep going with what they've been doing lately, they probably will get to where they want to go.
Very aptly put there.
I'm sorry.
Guys, do we have any, final thoughts on the MAC at all, or do we want to move on?
Next.
All right, we're going to move to the American Athletic Conference. This tournament is played from March 9th to March 12th in Fort Worth, Texas. This is also a repeat. The defending champion is Houston, and that's the same team as this year's top seed. Houston currently, obviously, as we all know, is the top-ranked team in the country right now. And no one else in their conference is ranked, although I definitely think people should not underestimate Memphis. They're always in the mix. I mean, I know they've had a good last couple of years here.
So, Houston, 17-1 in conference play, 29-2 overall record. That is, no reason, why they're number one is because of that. But the funny thing is, both of their losses were at home this year, and the one conference loss was to Temple of all teams, who is the 5th seed right now. So this is kind of interesting that Houston hasn't lost on the road yet this year, and it's definitely going to be really hard to get past Houston.
Everyone has that
Cody,
weird loss.
You are just jamming out up there. What's going on there, bud?
I got a jazz song stuck in my head.
Yeah, we'll call it jazz, definitely. Cody, how about you talk about the American a little bit?
I would say my team to kind of maybe upset Houston might be Tulane. They've kind of had a all right season, but I would say they maybe have the best chance.
Gosh,
other than
football
Memphis
and basketball, you like Tulane a lot, don't you?
Yeah, I do. They're the green wave, man. I've never seen a wave that is green, so I want them to succeed.
Guys, who do we think's the best? Who's got the best chance to upset? Not even just Houston, but like Tulane and Memphis. Who do we think's got the best chance to throw an upset on those 3 teams?
I'd have to say Temple. I mean, they're the only one that beat Houston in the entire conference, so I'd have to give it to them.
Yeah, I know. I'll be watching to see if Wichita State can pull off an upset, or if they beat Tulsa. I'll be curious to see if they can pull off an upset against Tulane. Wichita State just hasn't had it for the last, probably better part of the last decade.
But they usually figure it out in March most of the times, though.
Yeah, it's been a little while though now since they've been back. So, um, I know a team that used to be so prominent. I mean, they had so many upsets for so long that now when they started getting favored, then they couldn't win them anymore. So, curious to see if they turn it around and come back one of these years. But anything else, guys, before we move on to our final conference?
Houston!
Okay, Cody likes Houston. So we're going to move to the prestigious conference. We're going to move to the Ivy League Conference, of course. This tournament is a 4-team tournament that takes place on March 11th and March 12th in Princeton, New Jersey. This year's defending champion and top seed is Yale.
Of course.
Yale, though, is currently tied with Princeton for the conference lead at 10-4. However, Yale has 20 wins and Princeton has 19 wins. Dash, you want to tee us off here?
I don't know. I mean, it really seems like just a two-way battle right now between Yale and Princeton. But
it always is, though. It's always between Yale and Princeton.
What it is every single year. So, I mean, the question really is in the championship game, who's going to win it between those two, in my opinion.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you on that one.
I think last year or a couple of years ago, Penn had an upset against Princeton, and then Yale just demolished them in the championship. And it's usually Yale, I think, from this conference. So I would say I'm not surprised to see. I will not be surprised to see Yale back in this tournament.
Yeah. Yep. So we talked about how Yale and Princeton are so dominant in this conference. They always tend to be the ones there at the end. Do we think Pennsylvania or Cornell's got a chance at all? Or do we think it's kind of just, might as well not play the tournament?
Well, they used not. They used not to. They just recently had the 4-team bracket. Didn't they? Or was that a couple of years ago now?
I think they've done the 4-team one for a while now. I thought,
because I thought they got it in when we were in high school. That's when they started doing it. So it might be a while now, but
I don't know. Dash, do you have any idea?
I think it's probably going to be one of the top 2 seeds.
Yeah. Yep.
Sadly.
This is also a tournament likes to rotate locations too. I mean, they're not always in Princeton, New Jersey. I think that they were somewhere else last year. I don't remember where they were last year.
Ain't next year the Big Ten is going to be in Minneapolis?
Yes, the Big Ten tournament will be in Minneapolis next year. So that's a change for them because the women's tournament was in Minneapolis this year, and it will be next year as well. So the Big Ten's starting to move that tournament around a little bit. Then again, the Big Ten tournament's always been in either Chicago or New York. One of the two.
I do have a question. Is UCLA and USC going to be moving to the Big Ten, or is that just football? Is that all sports or just football?
All sports, I believe.
Oh, dang. That conference is going to get a lot bigger.
Yeah. All right. Guys, do you have anything else you want to chat about before we wrap up here? Anything quick off the bat?
I wish I knew what I picked, because I think the only team that I got right so far is Drake winning the conference. So congrats to Drake.
You've gotten more than that, but I don't want to pull up the spreadsheet right now to look.
You don't have to. I just remember Drake.
For those of you that don't know, we've been picking the conference winners before even the championship game, and Dash has something he probably wants to show on camera.
Yep, just got showing off my pass, which I just returned last night from the Summit League Conference Tournament, which was a lot of fun. I got to see a lot of different basketball games, and for the last time, I get to go to that, so I really enjoyed that. The only thing that really was not fun was the 3.5-hour ride back in a blizzard pretty much for the entire way, and you couldn't even see the road all the way back. So that was the only not fun part of it, but everything else I enjoyed.
Yeah, the weather is pretty unforgiving in this part of the country, so. But any final thoughts, guys, before we wrap up?
No.
Cody likes jazz.
Cody likes jazz. We'll leave it on that. Thank you all for watching our 5th episode. Tune back in next week when we do a bunch of different things, including a recap of all the conference tournament winners. We'll see you next week, everyone. Thanks for watching.